These are the colors of the Biafran flag, correct?
Yes. The red stands for the blood of the soldiers who lost their lives. The green stands for growth, and then the gold is our future, the future of Biafra.
Could you take me back to the day you went from being, an ordinary boy in Nsokara, which Nsokara is the name of our village. Take me back to the day where that changed for you, where you went from, just being an ordinary boy to now you are suddenly entangled in, warfare.
For me, the day I was arrested, I was a civilian teenager, riding bicycle with 10 of my friends. We had been to the market, a decent market, to supply food to Biafrans, but we were not soldiers. So the Nigerian soldiers waylaid us and kidnapped us. So when they took us for over 1 year, and after kidnapping us, torturing us, eventually my brave father intervened. He used diplomacy and gifts to give them, to tell them that we were not soldiers, and they released me and few of my people. 1 week after that, I looked for the Biafran Organization of Freedom Fighters and joined. That's what I did. I said it's better for me to die fighting than for me to remain a civilian boy who could be a target of the military. About half of those of us arrested were killed one by one every day. So those of us alive chose to fight for Biafra and die to protect our fellow Biafrans who were being overpowered.
Just to clarify, Biafra had their own military at the time, and each person that was enlisted to fight for that cause had a number that was specific and personal to them. But that wasn't you or your friends at the time.
Just like ISS, just like social security number here, but none of us had any number. Upon all the torture they gave to us, we couldn't give a number we don't have.
Right.
They held us back in prison, even though they knew they were convinced we were not. That's why they kept us alive and killed so many people. They say, even grass, Biafran grass, set it on fire. Anything standing, house, human being, boys, girls, little children, that even little children are dangerous once they are Biafrans. So attack everything, destroy everything.
Biafra's army was not recruiting children. You just decided to go and enlist yourself. Is that true?
So many of the children, primary school children, the youth, we voluntarily went to the government house and asked Ojukwu, His Excellency, our leader, to give us guns and knives and all. But later on, when the war became tough and people were getting killed, so many, the Biafra started forcing everybody to join the military. But in our case, we volunteered.
Recruiting, would you say that recruiting is like a euphemism in this context? Like, was it actual recruitment, come join us, or was it a forced?
It was forced recruitment. The best time in my life is now. Now I'm beginning to see through my doctors and to know through my doctors that the trauma of war has caught up with me. If you watch me closely, as of course you know, it's about 3 years now since I went to Mayo's Clinic to be declared that I have Parkinson. But all I know is that I had a traumatic childhood experiences that really made me to become very nervous. For instance, if I hear the sound of plane above me, either in my office or here, I freeze. I still freeze. Because the sound of planes were the war planes that threw bomb on us in the market, in our schools, in the public square, in our private homes, in our workplaces. Even to ride a plane, I stayed 10 years. The fear of me riding a plane, flying in the plane, is like you're taking me to the slaughterhouse to kill me.
I remember, this is, not to, I'm sorry to cut you off,
Yeah.
but I remember, years ago, 2011 or 12, we traveled back to Nigeria, and that was my first time traveling internationally. So I was very, very excited.
Yeah.
We had to connect flights.
Yeah.
Went from like here to Atlanta, from Atlanta to Lagos, which is used to be the capital of Nigeria.
Yes.
And that was an exciting experience for me. Now that I'm sitting here, I'm realizing that may have been a difficult situation for you, being that you were, scared to fly.
It was a very horrifying experience.
Thank you so much for sitting down with me and kicking off our series. This is a very personal topic for you, and also for me, because believe it or not, your experiences have definitely trickled down into the way you've raised me and what I've been exposed to. And so I'm really excited that we're partnering and doing this together. You have something to say?
Ubuntu. I'm nothing without you. You're nothing without me. We're nothing without each other.
Last video we really talked a lot about, your personal experience, but, there may be people who just were not really sure what a child soldier does or who they are.
I volunteered because I was kidnapped and imprisoned. So after that experience, I preferred to fight, to defend my parents, to defend my community, instead of being killed or arrested or kidnapped. It's better for me to arm myself and fight back than to stay for them to come and grab me with their hands.
Child soldiers or children, they typically are abducted by the opposing force, or threatened, or lured, manipulated. And some of them are, if you factor in poverty, they're really just trying to find a way to generate income for their families. Or, they're looking for a means of survival, some force to associate with that will provide them protection, especially if they happen to be orphaned.
Well, I don't call it escape. My father was a very brave African warrior, Igbo warrior. So he applied his tactics. He bought a goat, some yam, chickens, and carried to the commander of the prison, the commander of the military, and to tell them that we are not military people, and explain to them that I'm his first son and that he wouldn't have allowed me to join the military because I'm in our culture. I'm to take over from him as a prince.
You were actually able to even return back to our village, back to community. And I think it's something that's important to highlight is that some children, let's say they're able to be released somehow, they're actually not able to return back to community. And that was just one little beacon of light, in your story, is that you were able to return back to our family in the village. But some children don't get a chance to do that, just because before they join or are abducted or whatnot, they sometimes, to ensure that they're strong enough to serve or to desensitize them, they will have these children commit really horrible, terrible atrocities to their own family or in their own communities, that basically ensure that they are not able to return to their communities even upon being released. Children will typically be used in these wars as cooks or houseboys, guards, messengers. Sometimes they even send them ahead of older troops who are actually going to fight the war to scope out the land for any bombs.
We recruited children for several reasons. Reason number one being that they are gullible. Gullible. Number two, adults are more powerful than the children. And so the children will obey and fear, they're out of fear. And then they can pack as many as they want without anybody challenging them.
It was easy for children to be used in this because they were gullible. And I think that that's a cultural thing, because whenever I think about growing up, brought up with the intention of showing respect to elders.
Respect, you're right.
Yes,
We
respect
have
to
a high
elders.
culture of respect.
Yes,
Yeah.
a high culture of respect.
Yeah.
But then in this case, the ones that are supposed to be providing us protection and like stewarding us in the right direction were the ones that, misused that trust. You hit the nail on the head with talking about children and being obedient. They're in their formative years. If anything is taught, if I've been taught anything from psychology, it's that children, when they're really young, they're in formative years. They're typically, recruited because they're more susceptible to like psychological manipulation, and they just make more obedient soldiers.
They're cheap to maintain.
They're cheap to maintain.
Yes, they don't demand much.
Something that I've learned researching is that like children who have fought in like these armed conflicts, they're more susceptible to, PTSD or anxiety or depression. Even if they find a way to make it back to their community, like they may not have anywhere to go, or they cannot go back to their family because of the acts that they had to commit against their family in order to be integrated into the army. Some of them, they find a way to leave, and instead of that being celebrated or their cries aren't heard, and the government actually like reprimands them. This is a pretty important episode because it covers, I think, what exactly a soldier is. Thank you for your time.
I am nothing without you. You are nothing without me. We are nothing without each other. Okwute mgbe ebighị ebi kwe ka m zoro n'ime gị. Okwute mgbe ebighị ebi kwe ka m zoro n'ime gị. Biafra ala mara mma kwe ka m zoro gị biri. Biafra ala Chineke kwe ka m soro gị biri. O nwere ndị na-ama jijiji ama kwa shara dị ha mma. O nwere ndị na-ama jijiji ama shara dị ha mma.